Is there something that's hated by nearly everyone in your fandom that you absolutely do not get why it's hated? In the My Hero Academia fandom, I don't get the hate for the Kachiko ship to a point that there is a subreddit dedicated to hating that one ship. Sure, Bakugo is an abrasive prick, but he's like that to nearly everyone, and was a bigger prick to them than to Ochako. And in the Game of Thrones fandom, I don't get the hate for modern AUs. In fact, some of the best stories that I've read from the fandom were modern. Credit to Reddit user MountainAlarm7093 for starting this thread on the fanfiction subreddit. And let's go read some answers. And a reminder to be nice to people who have different fandom opinions than yours. We can debate things without being rude. In the Teen Wolf fandom, Scott gets ragged on because he is opposed to killing and tries to seek out a peaceful solution. The 18-year-old kid doesn't want to kill anyone, and that's a bad thing apparently. People are the same with Aang from Avatar, and I'm just like, he's literally 12? And he has legit reasons too, like, I don't know, being the last survivor of a genocide and wanting to carry on his people's traditions? It is so weird, man. I haven't written anything for the fandom yet, but in the Zelda Breath of the Wild fandom, people bashing Zelda's English voice actor and hating her attempt at a British accent, or hating that version of Zelda completely because she was a little rude to Link in the memories sometimes. She's completely justified to be a tad rude. Girl's got the world on her shoulders and everyone's gonna die and it's gonna be her fault, and you expect her to be all sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows? Oh man, right? I'll be the first to admit I'm not huge on the English voice actors, but that's not the voice actor's fault. It's just a personal thing for me. I prefer Raoru's English VA, but that doesn't mean his Japanese one is bad either. I just swap languages. I don't go bitching about it. People hate on any female character if they're not super sweet all the time. Rachel from Glee, she gets way more hate than she deserves. Same with Rachel from Percy Jackson. In fandom in general, not a specific one, everybody hates second-person perspective, while I have no problem with it whatsoever. A lot of people seem to think that second person equals ex-reader. It sucks because second person comes the most natural for me. In the Pokemon fandom, people seem to really hate Ash and complain that he sucks, that he's not impressive, not that good, stupid, etc. And I'm just like, well, he's 10 to 12 years old, so... In the Animal Crossing fandom, people hate when you say that Flick and that one beaver he hangs out with are just friends or business partners, and not a romantic couple. I know why people hate Fiona from Spy Family, but their reasons are all irrational and unreasonable. I know why people hate certain female characters usually in some fandoms, but their arguments don't hold water. So it's not like I don't get why. I do, I just strongly disagree. Hating fictional characters or ships is normal, but it's when they take their hatred to the level of bullying and harassing people minding their own business who like these ships and characters that pisses me off. People who hate Fiona to such a degree are taking the show way too seriously. It's a comedy. Fiona is a gag character. Of course she's over the top and ridiculous. She's supposed to be. I do hope she gets more development, but right now I think she's hilarious and people need to chill. The Lunter ship from the Owl House. Like, they have a 2-year age gap, they're both bisexual, they're not freaking related, adoptive or not, in canon. They're a found family, yes, but so is the entire Hex Squad, and imagine if people called Willooz or, God forbid, Lumity incest. I don't even like the ship personally, but the hatred toward it just freaking reeks of biphobia, man. Yeah, the fandom really likes to ignore or downplay Luz being bi. It's really depressing. Yep, in the Blue Exorcist fandom, there's a reveal that the main character is Satan's son to the others, and it's a big deal in the universe and it's a serious issue. The fandom gets so weird about the other characters being scared or mad at Rin hiding this. Their reactions make sense for everyone involved and for what happened, and it's resolved within one arc and they're all good by the end. But for some reason, fans still act like this is the worst thing that ever happened, and how dare the characters react like they did to poor little Uwu Rin. I can't tell you how many out-of-character fanfics I've seen come out of this, making it look like Rin is a perfect little angel and everyone is so mean and evil. It drives me up a wall. In the Steven Universe fandom, this was more common about 8 years ago than now, but a lot of people act like Mayor Dewey is like a legit creep to Pearl, instead of just an awkward guy who likes her. Tumblr in general has or had a big problem with not knowing the difference between simply having an unrequited crush and being entitled. In the Homestuck fandom, Trickster mode, it's absolutely chaotic and hilarious. Why does everyone hate it? It's hideous and bright and ugly and loud. Exactly the reasons why I love it. In the Disney fandom, weird nostalgic Disney fans that are so adamant about modern Disney sucks when it comes to the animated CGI stuff, which I strongly disagree with. With the live action stuff, I can understand why that could be really disappointing. I only ever enjoyed the Cinderella remake, everything else was not for me. I just don't get the hate for CGI and the revival era Disney movies. I genuinely enjoyed a lot of them, even more so than some of the classics that I grew up with. And the weird obsession that Disney fans and Disney movie haters have with irredeemable villains, and how they don't want to see nuance or morally gray or generational trauma-based antagonists, confuses me. It's so boring to see the old black and white hero versus villain stuff after a while. I just don't get the idolization for irredeemable black and white villains from the get-go. Doesn't it get boring after a while? I want an antagonist that makes me conflicted and surprises me. Even if they seem to be irredeemable, I want to think about them after a while instead of just, haha, evil bad guys evil. Not to mention the weird hate against twist villain overdone. I just don't get the irrational hatred when it comes to the modern animated movies and claims that old Disney's better when those older films have as many flaws as the new ones. The intense negative reactions to Adam from Skate the Infinity were absolutely confounding to me. He felt like a pretty standard camp gay villain to me, but if you listened to a sizable chunk of the fandom when the show was airing, you'd think the man was the devil incarnate. Like, if you're uncomfortable with how he creeped on Langa, sure, it's okay to not like things, but as someone whose formative media was dominated by 90s shoujo manga, the collective hatred for Adam felt hella disproportionate for a character that would have been a fan favorite, messy, evil gay icon when I was in high school. Final Fantasy X-2. The whole game. It's got flaws, sure, but a lot of the hate has a very misogynistic flavor. Note, if you hate it for reasons not related to, ew, girly pop music, you're fine, and this is not an invitation for you to tell me how you're the exception. X-2 was probably my favorite Final Fantasy game outside of 10 and 14. 10 was always really Yuna's story, so I was glad to see her actually in the spotlight. Literally, for once. And that girly pop music is so good. Real Emotion is a banger. If anyone can listen to that and not be half dancing in your seat like Riku, they're a stronger person than me. Almost nothing goes without criticism in the Sonic fandom, but I'll specify Amy Rose in this instance. It seems like she's utterly doomed to burn at the stake, no matter what Sega does with her. Originally, she received the brunt of the fandom's abysmal hatred for solely existing to chase Sonic towards the ends of the earth, regardless of his feelings on it. Sega has since rectified this. It states in her updated biography that, while her romantic interest in Sonic is still prevalent, she's ceased her excessive insistence upon him. Now, fans are outraged that Sega has the audacity to give Amy any purpose that isn't directly linked to crossing paths with Sonic. One of the more repetitive criticisms I've witnessed is Amy has been reduced to just girl Sonic, but I'd love any evidence of that being the case. Amy still retains her passion for love, her fiery temperament, and her inescapable obligation to rescue the helpless. Her big heart is as much of a crutch as it is something to love about her, and I think diving into that aspect, beyond her feelings for Sonic, is the sort of attention from this franchise she's always been worthy of. Not a fandom, but the hate for Wattpad. As a former Wattpad girly, I actually understand the dislike for the app. Same, I just hate the search function. What do you mean I can't sort by kudos or date updated, or can't exclude the stuff I don't want? And what's this way of calculating the length of a story by chapters? Who does that? You use word counts. In the Omori fandom, for some reason, half the fandom despises the Sunflower ship. Not because it's gay or anything, thank God, but supposedly because it's toxic, because both Sunny and Basil have some sort of mental illness. The thing is, most people who ship Sunflower are aware of this, and ship versions of them years after the events of the game, at a point where these characters have likely processed their trauma. Also, I'm really not liking the implications of you shouldn't ship mentally ill characters. What, do mentally ill people not deserve romance? A lot of people hate the addition of Tauriel into the Hobbit movies, but that has softened a lot since the Rings of Power came on. Tauriel would have been fine without the shoehorned love story. If she was just a chill-ass elf that looked cool and killed orcs, I would have been cool. The Redland ship from High School Musical, the musical, the series. No, they're not related just because they're redheaded and Jewish. No, it's not homophobic to ship a bisexual man and a woman who canonically likes men and women. In the Bungo Stray Dogs fandom, Mori Ogai. He's my second favorite character. I like him a lot. He's a bad guy, not necessarily a villain, as that changes depending on whether the main characters and him have their goals align, but he's really not that much worse than the fan favorites. People love Dazai, Chuya, and Ryunosuke, all of which have committed unforgivable crimes, but people will push that to the side to make them soft, because I guess mass murder is a forgivable or justifiable crime. But Mori is a creep to Elise-chan, who's literally just an extension of himself with no thoughts or opinions, and so he cannot be liked by anyone. It bugs me so much. In the Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters fandom, the Anzu bashing. I don't get it. She's a fabulous character, and while her early dub spiels are a bit cheesy, she's extremely brave and loyal to the point where it's almost a fault. Season 0 also did a lot of cool stuff with her character, i.e. following the manga by making her do really stupid shit early on. But dub-only watchers don't get those sides of her. In the Black Butler fandom, there's so much discourse over Grell's gender. Like, they're a fictional character, and a psychotic cold-blooded killer who sexually harasses people every time they're in a scene. Why are you getting so hung up over a fanfic author using the incorrect pronouns if even the canon and the manga author misgender them? It's not that big of a deal. You aren't defending a real person who could be hurt by any of this. And even if Grell were a real person, they clearly don't care if someone does use he, him over she, her. They don't so much as bat an eye when other characters do it. So why do you think you're a better person for laying into or ganging up on a fanfic author over this? Why do you still insist that you have the moral high ground? Clone-cest ships in the Team Fortress 2 fandom. So things like sniper/sniper, or spy/spy, essentially two characters that are pretty much identical to each other. It's not as overhated as other ships, like Scout and Spy, but a lot of people side-eye it, and some do not interact over it. It doesn't even have to be literal self-cest or clone-cest, because they can be different people while having the same class. Like, Blue Spy and Red Spy aren't the same person, even if they look it, and you can honestly change their appearances. And hell, if you want them to be the same person, you absolutely can. The canon is held up by silly string. Abraham Lincoln canonically invented stairs so people wouldn't have to rocket jump anymore, but you draw the line at two similar characters together. I remember a lot of people hating the Hanagram ship because it was toxic and unhealthy, and also somehow queerbaiting because they never had sex. Hannibal's therapist literally tells Will that Hannibal is in love with him in his own twisted way. She calls him Bluebeard's bride. The tabloid lady calls them murder husbands. They have a weird adult adopted cannibal daughter together. I don't know what else they wanted. Like, they didn't understand the point of the entire series. It was meant to be toxic and manipulative on its best days. It was meant to be horrifying. They don't have to write for the ship, but let's not pretend we're watching a different show than we are. This applies to every fandom, but bashing. I get why people don't want to read it, but it's such an easy thing to exclude, and if it is untagged, then just click off of it. Too many people want to police the way fanfiction is written. In the Grey's Anatomy fandom, characters dying. The actors wanted to move on to other projects, and let's face it, fans would hate how they left on the show no matter what, dying or moving away. A lot of people in one of my fandoms seem to hate 2 or 3 side characters. They kill them whenever they can in fanfics, or designate them as villains, or even rant about them on social media, like, Character X deserves to die, actually. Though the characters don't even appear enough in the canon material to have distinct personalities, or do anything to affect the plot. Queerbaiting. No, those 2 extremely straight characters who are standing near each other are not intentionally being implied to be a couple. No, that celebrity that fucks with gender is not pretending to be queer to make more money. And how do you know their sexuality anyway? Yes, that character who was revealed to be queer in a brief flashback, book talk, or novelization should have been more explicitly queer in the main canon. Yes, fans have every right to read media as queer even if the creators did not intend it that way. Yes, we need more queer representation in media. Multiple things can be true at once. Queerbaiting can be real, but more often than not, it's appropriating the language of social justice to have the same old shipping arguments fans have been having forever. Big thank you to my Patreon members, my Little Ruse, Kuski55, Fallen Vexen, Sam, Donka42, I Am a Noodle, John Huang, Fantastic Wreck, Laser Scorpio, and Night Avenger. Thank you so much for your extra support on Patreon, it means the world to me. I hope you guys are doing well, I wish you the best. And the same goes to my YouTube channel members, my Mini Ruse, AD, Taylor Thompson, Foxstar Killer, Logan, and DeBella. Thank you so much for your extra support. I'm so glad to have you be a part of my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. My Little Ruse and my Mini Ruse, you guys are all rock stars. But of course, the same goes to all of my viewers, no matter what. Thank you for watching, I'm so grateful to have you here. Tell me, what is something in your fandoms that most people just hate, but you don't get why? Is it a character that gets bashed, a certain section of the story that people don't like but you think is interesting, a relationship that gets looked down on? I'd love to hear your answers in the comments, and you can give your defense on why perhaps these things shouldn't be hated so much. And I hope you guys all have a good day. I'll see you in the next video, and thanks again.